Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or something else, we are not happy with our elections.
This nation has been victimized by rampant election fraud in the past.
Fewer than 1 in 5 registered Massachusetts voters will cast their ballots.
Well, the outcome of the debate over ranked choice voting is going to be a game changer.
Changing a centuries-old system sounds scary, but I think we could do better. Sometimes the smartest ideas are the simplest ones, and Professor Stephen Brams at NYU has a simple idea.
You ready to talk about voting?
Always.
Okay,
all right.
Good. I'm Stephen Brams, professor of politics at New York University. I think the goal is to find somebody who is acceptable, or as acceptable as possible to as many people as possible. The current way that we elect most candidates is plurality voting, and that's probably one of the worst systems that one could think of. It's very simple, and we're all familiar with it. Each person votes for one candidate, and the candidate with the most votes wins. But it's also deeply flawed.
So one reason why is called the spoiler effect. And make no mistake, this can actually happen. Imagine these are the voters in the 2000 presidential election. Their views are represented by two axes. People vote for the candidate who is closest to their views, so these voters will vote for Bush. And this group of voters will vote for Gore. The spoiler effect is when a minor candidate with similar views to another forces a split in the vote. Ralph Nader drew votes away from Gore, and Bush beat Gore by just 537 votes.
You wouldn't even use plurality voting when you choose where to go to dinner. What if most of you want either pizza or tacos, and some people want liverwurst? But the pizza and tacos crowd split the votes. The liverwurst contingent might end up winning, and we'd all be eating liverwurst.
So what are the alternatives?
Alternative voting procedures have been proposed whereby people can indicate not just a first choice, but they can rank candidates and they can rate candidates. So what I'm most partial to is approval voting. It's just as simple as plurality voting, but without some of the problems. In approval voting, you select all choices you approve of. The winner is the alternative with the most approvals. Since they approve of both pizza and tacos, those folks don't have to worry about coordinating with each other in a favorite. Unlike plurality voting, there's no spoiler effect. Naturally, you can extend this to politics.
But Dr. Brams isn't the only one advocating for an alternative voting method. There are now many different methods being proposed. For example, score voting, where you score candidates on a scale of 0 to 5. Usually, the more information you can get from voters about their preference, the better the voting system. But there is a trade-off. It's possible for the system to get too complex.
There is another system that has gained some advocates. It's called ranked choice voting.
Now a look at what seems to some people as an undemocratic idea.
Mainers set to use ranked choice voting for the very first time.
Voters here in St. Paul going into Holy Spirit Church can rank 6 choices for mayor.
With ranked choice, you rank the candidates. If no candidate has a majority, you discard the votes for the lowest candidate and you transfer his second choices to a candidate who remains in the running. You continue this process until there's a majority winner.
So what's wrong? If it's so popular, why not use it?
Well, it has several problems. One is that people have difficulty ranking more than about 5 candidates. There were 17 candidates in the Republican primary in 2016. Who can rank 17 candidates? Another problem is that by raising your ranking of a candidate, you may actually hurt him, just the opposite of what you want to happen. There are other problems, but it seems to me that approval voting, which is much simpler, is a much more viable alternative.
You can see why this can get complicated. Depending on which voting method is used, the same voters with the same candidates can lead to different outcomes. So realistically, are we ever going to get any of these methods into use?
So this is not going to happen overnight. That is, election reform will probably take several more years, but as reforms are tried out and shown to work well or not work well, then I think we will find that more and more people find some of these alternatives acceptable and are willing to use them. I think that augurs well for a more democratic society.
As more people use alternative voting methods at the local level, hopefully support will build over time. Making decisions for yourself is hard enough. Making decisions as a group is even more difficult. Yeah, so what does everyone want for dinner? So there's no reason we can't rethink the system that we use now. And just because we've used it for a long time does not mean it works best. Maybe plurality voting needs to be voted out.